fiancée lied about wedding planning, so I exposed her cheating in front of her family and called off everything. I'll try to keep everything as on point as I can without adding a bunch of details people don't really care about. In short, my ex-fiancée, codenamed Kara, who's 28 years old, and I, George, 29 years old, started dating in our senior year of high school and have been together ever since. Before we started dating, we knew each other for more than 6 years. In total, our friendship and relationship span more than 18 years. I can honestly say that I knew her as well as a person can know another person. I spent a lot of time with her mom and dad over the years, and they loved me even after everything came out. I think they still do, but who really knows? My own family loves Kara, and I always believed that we would end up married, as did I. We dated for about 11 years before I proposed to her, and we were engaged for a little more than a year. I either made the right decision and saved myself from a future divorce, or I destroyed a nearly 20-year friendship and relationship because of my own insecurities. Except my parents, they are 100% behind my decision. I knew Kara for 11 years before I proposed, and I always say it takes years to get to know someone, but that doesn't mean it's a guarantee. After 11 years, I thought I knew her, but apparently not. I'm not going to portray myself as a perfect human being or as having all the things women want, but I'm a hard worker and have always done what I could to make sure we had a fighting chance. I didn't go to college, mostly because it wasn't something I wanted to do since I was 6. I've worked with my dad, who is a carpenter. I did go to trade school, and have made a good career with a company that builds roof and floor trusses. For those who don't know, trusses are the frames that floors and roofs of buildings are built on. I enjoy the work and have worked my way up to a day shift supervisor, overseeing 3 production buildings. Occasionally, I have to go on site for minor modifications when trusses are installed. All in all, it's fulfilling work and I get paid well. Sorry for all the background info. As I mentioned before, I knew Kara's family for a long time. Like my own family, they were thrilled when I finally proposed last year. We were planning a November 2024 wedding and had been living together for nearly 3 years. Until I either messed up or made the right call this past June. I still think I made the right call, but it would be nice to hear from others who aren't directly involved. I'm not going to lie and say everything was rainbows and blue skies. We had our share of disagreements, but nothing out of the ordinary for kids or teenagers. I thought we were in it with each other, but I guess I was the only one who felt that way. I'm an only child, but Kara has an older sister who is 2 years older, a divorced single mom, and a younger brother who is a year younger than her. He's 27 and still lives with his parents, struggles to keep a job for more than a month or 2, and spends most of his time playing video games. Kara's dad is frustrated but keeps supporting him. This past May and June is when everything fell apart, though I didn't realize it until mid-June. My job is busiest during the summer, and it's not uncommon for me to work several Saturdays a month. Although Kara and I had been engaged for a while, the wedding planning didn't really kick into full gear until April. Normally, Kara, her mom, and sister would get together on the weekends to plan everything. I guess I could have gone, but I'd rather watch paint dry than deal with that kind of stuff. As long as I knew where to stand, what to say, and where the reception was going to be held, that was all the information I needed. All the other crap was meaningless to me. Sorry, not sorry. I'm a guy, and it just happened that most of May and June, I had to work extra shifts on Saturdays to meet our orders. Kara spent those days hanging out with her mom and sister, working on wedding plans. I didn't mind, and we usually visited her parents' house at least once a month for dinner to catch up. There was one project I was working on with her dad, and I would sometimes go over when I had the time to help. We were building a wooden deck in the backyard, something we had been working on for a few months, and we planned on finishing it before the 4th of July so he could have a cookout. It's probably not necessary to mention, but his son didn't lift a finger to help, the lazy idiot. But I digress. Her dad wasn't much of a carpenter, but he could swing a hammer and was excellent at buying beer. It was on the 8th of June, a Saturday, when I got kicked in the nuts. I was scheduled to work that day, and Kara was going to hang out with her mom and sister for more planning. This had been going on for almost 5 weeks, and it had been about a month and a half since I had the time to help her dad with the deck, which was almost finished. It was a normal day as far as I knew when I left for work. I was on the site for about 3 hours before they called it a day because one of the generators went down. I decided to go and help Kara's dad with the deck and spend some time with Kara and her family. I got there around 11 in the morning, and the first thing I noticed was that Kara's car wasn't there. I figured she was probably out looking at stores or something like that. When I knocked on the door, her mom answered and, looking around, asked me where Kara was. That was my first gut punch, but I said she was probably out shopping after a cup of coffee. Her dad and I went to work on the deck and talked. It was the little things he said that really made me start questioning what was going on. One of the things he mentioned was that it was nice to see me, since we hadn't been over in a while. It was kind of an offhand comment, but it made me wonder what he was talking about. Throughout the afternoon and into the evening, we were able to finish the deck, except for staining and sealing. During that time, I found out that Kara hadn't been to her parents' house in over a month. That was troublesome for a few reasons. First and foremost, for the last month, Kara was supposedly spending Saturdays with her mom while I was working, but her mom seemed completely unaware of this. Second, if she wasn't at her parents' house, where was she spending her days that she needed to lie to me about? My first guess was that she was hanging out with her sister, doing the planning, but I still had doubts that their mom wouldn't know what was going on. I decided to ask her when she got home later. I left her parents' house around 5 o'clock, and Kara didn't get home until a little after 8 p.m. When she came in, she was all smiles, talking about all the stuff that got planned. I asked who was doing the planning with her, and she said that her mom and sister had spent all day together working on everything and were almost finished. She went on to talk about the place settings and other details that I didn't care about. I was doing my best to keep a straight face, knowing she was lying to my face. The only question running through my mind was, if she wasn't where she claimed to be, where the hell was she, and what was she really doing that she felt the need to lie to me about? It was one of the longest nights of my life. I didn't confront her at that moment but spent the rest of the evening thinking about every possibility. The one thing that kept coming to mind was that she was doing something wrong, and more than likely it was with another man. Nothing else made sense to me. If she was spending time with her sister or her friends, there would have been no reason to lie about it. Nothing I could come up with justified the lies, unless it was something serious. I briefly considered that maybe she was working on a surprise for me, but in our entire relationship she had never done anything like that, so I dismissed it as a possibility. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning when I got out of bed and checked her phone, but there was nothing on it. Did I feel bad for checking her phone behind her back? Nope, not one little bit. I didn't get much sleep that night, and I think she could tell something was wrong. Sunday morning, but I just brushed it off as not getting a lot of sleep. It wasn't a lie. I spent most of the morning doing yard work and trying to come up with some reasonable excuse for the lie. By the time I finished mowing the grass, I realized I was acting like an idiot. It was easy enough to figure out. I ended up calling her dad and inviting her parents over for dinner that night, which he happily agreed to. I didn't tell Kara that I invited her parents over, mostly because I wanted to see her reaction when they showed up. If there was a reasonable excuse, I wanted to hear it, and I wanted witnesses. I couldn't get past the lie. If you lie about that, what else was she lying about? Talk about a long afternoon waiting for dinner. That was it for her part. Kara was acting like she always did. At one point, she caught me staring at her and asked me what I was doing. I just told her that I was admiring how beautiful she is, and she smiled, letting it go. I ended up making lasagna for dinner, which was helpful since it kept my hands busy in the kitchen throughout the entire day. I was watching Kara, and she was the same as she always was, which was driving me crazy. If she was doing something wrong, she should have looked guilty or something, right? Nothing. Her parents and her brother arrived a little past 6 p.m. Kara was surprised when she opened the door, but let them in. After getting them seated at the table, she came to the kitchen and asked me what her parents were doing there. I told her I invited them for dinner and said I thought I mentioned it. She said I didn't tell her, and I apologized, saying it must have slipped my mind. If she can lie to me, I added, I can lie to her. Fair is fair, right? Kara got everyone a drink while I told them dinner would be ready soon. I could see their faces from the kitchen, but at one point, her dad mentioned that he was glad I was able to help him finish the deck the previous day. It didn't take long for Kara to come into the kitchen and ask me what her dad was talking about. I told her I had spent most of the day at her parents' house, helping her dad. She said she thought I was at work all day, and asked why I didn't tell her when she got home. I told her that since she was lying to my face about where she spent the day, I didn't feel the need to tell her anything. She started making some excuses, but I cut her off and told her to set the table, then turned my back on her to get the food out of the oven. She just stood there for a minute, not saying anything. I heard her getting plates and silverware out. I could only imagine the lie she was coming up with to cover her other lie. By the time I got the food to the table, I could see Carl watching me nervously, but she didn't say anything. Dinner was nice. Her dad and I talked about the deck while I gave him some tips for staining and sealing it. Kara and her mom spent most of the time talking about the wedding. It's funny, but Kara kept glancing at me like she wanted to say something, but I ignored her. It took all my strength not to say something, but I didn't want to ruin dinner. After dinner, we were having coffee in the living room and relaxing. I couldn't hold back anymore. In the middle of the conversation, I asked, "So, Kara, where were you yesterday?" She almost choked on her coffee but said she was out shopping for wedding supplies. That was when her mom chimed in and said she thought everything was done and asked why Kara didn't invite her along. I've heard people talk about the blood draining from someone's face, but I'd never actually seen it before. It was kind of scary. Kara mumbled something about not thinking her mom would want to go since they didn't have much to pick up. That's when I asked, "If there wasn't much to pick up, why did you get home after 8 p.m.? Where else did you go?" Kara said she and her friend were just hanging out and asked why I was interrogating her. I told her, "Because you lied to me about where you were and who you were with. By the way, where were you the last 5 Saturday? You told me you were with your mom, but she says she hasn't seen you in a month." This time, her mom didn't say anything, and her dad was watching her while her brother sat there shaking his head. I've heard it said that when you're digging a hole, it's best to stop digging while you can still see sunlight. Kara didn't say anything, but she kept looking between her mom and me, almost like she was searching for a lifeline. It was her dad who broke the silence and asked her what she'd been doing. That's when she started tearing up. She said she didn't like that everyone was ganging up on her. Her brother started laughing, and I swear he said, "You might as well tell him, you know you were caught." Kara's eyes went wide, and her dad was asking him what he was talking about. He went on to tell us that he overheard Kara and her sister talking about the guy she was dating behind my back. Her sister had warned her that she was going to get caught, just like she did. Kara's dad was furious. He was on his feet, yelling at Kara, "Tell me it isn't true." But all Kara did was lower her head. Then he turned on his son, asking him how long he'd known and why he never said anything. The lazy idiot said he'd known for about 3 months but didn't say anything because it was none of his business. Kara's dad was livid, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. Her dad told his son that he should have said something and that he had a month to find a job and a new place to live. Then Kara's brother dropped the bomb. "Mom knew too, but you're not throwing her out." I've known Kara's dad for a long time, and that was the first time I'd ever seen him speechless. His face was beet red, and I was worried he might be having a heart attack. That's when the apologies started. "I can explain. It's not what you think." And a few other things I can't remember. My body went numb, but I managed to tell her to take off the engagement ring because we were done. The entire room went silent, except for Kara's crying, but she wasn't moving. Anger hit me like a tidal wave. I got up and yelled at her to take off the damn ring, which she did as she jumped at my yelling. Her dad started apologizing, but I held up my hand and told him I didn't blame him for anything. I told him I was leaving for an hour and Kara and all her stuff had better be gone when I got back, or else it would be thrown in the trash. Kara started sobbing and tried to run over and hug me, but her dad stopped her. I headed for the door, and even after I closed it, I could still hear her dad yelling at all of them. I stayed away for about 2 hours to make sure I didn't run into any of them, and took the time to go over to my parents' house to fill them in on what happened. My mom was sad there wasn't going to be a wedding, but she said I did the right thing. As long as you've been together, and she could still do that to you, you could never trust her, she said. That hit hard. Carl was my first and only, and the thought of her stepping out on me during our relationship was hard to accept. Knowing what I know now and how calm she always acted around me, tells me my mom was probably right. You don't learn to lie that easily and calmly overnight. It takes practice. That was all a few months ago, and since then, I've basically been a zombie on cruise control. I work, eat, and sleep, but I'm trying to stay busy to keep my mind off everything. It's hard when you have a lifetime of memories with someone, and now I find myself questioning every time she was out with her friends, shopping, or just out of my sight. I cannot help but question if my entire relationship was a lie. The thought that cuts the deepest is wondering how many of our friends knew about it and never said anything. Secrets are a funny thing. The only way to truly keep a secret between two people is to destroy one of them. All in all, my life is a mess, and I have no idea how to move forward. Kara tried to talk to me, but I told her dad that he needed to get her to stop. I didn't want to file a restraining order, but if she kept harassing me, I was going to. That was a few months back, and other than a random friend calling to check on me, I've cut out all of our mutual friends because I have no idea how many of them, if any, knew what was going on. I still can't understand why someone who claims to love you can cause so much pain and still smile at you. Okay, enough whining from me. Oh yeah, her dad did kick her brother out and he threatened to divorce her mom, but I have no idea if he's going through with it. We never got the chance to christen the deck on the 4th of July. My mom suggested I think about getting some counseling, and she might be right. It's been 3 months, and I haven't been able to do much more than put one foot in front of the other. It feels almost the same as when a loved one dies. I have so many questions that keep me awake at night, and I know I'll never get any real answers, but it's hard to silence the voices in my head. Anyway, that's my story. Maybe it will help someone or maybe not, but it helped me to write everything down. I'm sure I missed a lot, but thinking clearly is not one of my strong suits right now. Story 2. I made this account a few days ago and debated whether to post about this because it feels stupid, but here I am. I'm a 17-year-old male and I'm graduating high school this year. My parents divorced when I was just shy of 2 years old, a long time ago. Both my mom and dad were married. My mom is now single again, and my dad had another son with his wife. My half-brother is 14. My entire life, my half-brother has always been the priority. I was constantly told that as the older brother, I should be stronger and not make a big deal out of it. I remember being 9 years old, standing by the window, waiting for my dad to show up, only for him to call my mom and tell her he couldn't make it because my brother had a dentist's appointment and was freaking out. It was literally just a checkup. Sure, let me just go F myself. It was always stupid things like that. He missed my sports games for random reasons, not even just because of my brother. He didn't come to my talent show when I was 15 because he simply didn't want to. That's it, no plans, nothing he had to be at, he just didn't want to go. I had spent months learning guitar and a song to play for him since he loves guitar in that specific song. Oh well, let me just go F myself again. My parents don't have a good relationship, but my mom doesn't keep me from him. I've overheard their conversations. He just doesn't want to be there. At one point, I asked my mom if he was really my dad, and she said yes and asked why I was saying things like that. I asked why he hated me, then it was an emotional moment, but it passed. This happened just before my 17th birthday, and since then, I've just stayed in my lane. If he reached out, I would say hi, but I wouldn't ask him anything, hug him if I saw him, or beg for time together. I'm kind of indifferent now. I guess I'm not saying he was never in my life, but he was only there for the moments that anyone would call him a dad. If he missed birthdays, short visits on Christmas, or when I had surgery as a kid, anything else though, and he was busy like 70% of the time. Last week, he told me he regretted being so absent in my life. He said he had pre-planned a trip to drive me to college when I start. We would leave immediately after my graduation and drive across the country. For context, I haven't been accepted to any college yet, but I've spoken to the one I want to attend in Washington, and with my grades, it's basically guaranteed. I told him not to bother and that he should spend the summer with his son. I want to note that I've never said no when he asked to hang out or talk on the phone. I always said yes, even when I didn't want to, just to keep the peace and avoid causing issues. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a dad. I have a mother and a man who occasionally spares time for his other kid. He didn't like my response and said I'm his son too. I laughed and asked, "Since when?" We argued, and it didn't end on a good note. I told him I was planning on dropping contact when I turned 18, since he would probably do the same, so I bother maintaining a relationship he never wanted. I stopped wanting him to. He's been trying to reach out, but I shut it down every time. He's dropped by, but I don't see him. He calls me, I decline. He messages me, I ignore. Yesterday, I messaged him, "Hi, Dad. Please stop trying to talk to me. I truly want no relationship with you. You never wanted one with me, so I don't see why you're acting so hurt by this. I don't know if you never gave a fuck about me because of your own issues with me or your wife, who never let me come over. I don't know, and I don't care. I realized a while ago that I don't have a dad, and I've accepted it recently. I'm not mad. I just don't care. Keep the same energy you've had for the last decade and stay away from me. I hope your relationship with your son stays just as important because he's your only kid. Have a good life." My dad told my mom, and now she's mad at me, saying I should give him a chance because he's trying. She's not wrong. I do feel kind of bad because I could tell he was excited when he described our trip. But oh well, I wanted a dad who would be proud of my achievements and grades, but instead, I got a good job card from a store, and "I'm proud of you" texts. Really sincere. My mom's still trying to guilt-trip me, and I'm starting to feel like maybe I should just do the trip and then block his number once I'm at college. It's another year of faking smiles with him, and I don't want to do that. It would be easier, though. I don't know. Am I an idiot for all this? Relevant comments. Not the idiot. If you had agreed to the trip, your brother would have likely been a last-minute addition so you two could get to know each other better. I'm betting Dad was hoping to blindside you when it was too late to back out. I would also ask your mom why she's defending him after all the hurt he's inflicted on you by being absent. She said she doesn't want me to regret anything later in life. I told her I won't, but she's still pushing. You're not the idiot. In fact, you're giving your dad exactly what he wanted all along. A son he doesn't talk to much, who stands on his own 2 feet and doesn't expect much from his dad. That's what he created. If he wants something different, you both need to agree it's not up to him to decide. You'll be a happy family now. Not the idiot, not even close. I would probably do the same thing. He was an absent, crappy father. He doesn't get to decide to have a relationship with you now. You don't owe him anything. Protect your peace. Maybe someday you'll choose to forgive. Maybe not, but it's your choice, not his. Update. Hi. I wasn't going to make an update post, but more and more people kept asking for one. So here I am. I'm sorry I stopped replying, but the post got a lot of attention, and I freaked out a bit. I stopped responding, but I didn't stop reading the comments and the 100+ DMs people sent me. This won't be long. A lot of people told me to confront my mom about why she was pushing so hard, and I did. After a while, she gave in and said we should ask my dad over. 25 minutes later, we were all sitting in my living room, and they told me that my dad has cancer. He won't be getting through it, and he won't be here for my 21st birthday, my college graduation, my wedding, or when I have kids. It's different when someone won't be there but could be like an absent parent. Some of you suggested going no contact for a few years and reassessing later, but I can't do that. People told me to ask myself if I miss him if you were gone. Of course, I want a dad who doesn't want a father in their life. Yes, I seemed indifferent in my original post, and I really felt that way. But, F him, he's not going to be here. I don't get to take my time and go to therapy, which almost every single person suggested. If I only get to have a dad for a year, then I'm taking it and going on the trip with him. They made it very clear there's a chance he won't be here, and if that happens, he wants me to go with my mom. He planned for us to see the country, see where he grew up, and make memories together so I'd have something to hold on to. I know people will be mad at what I'm doing, and I'm sorry. Thank you for your advice and your personal stories to help me decide what I should do. Is he just doing this now to clear his conscience? Probably. I don't care. He won't get to see either of his kids grow up. I think that's punishment enough. Some comments do realize that if he didn't have cancer, he still would have chosen to be absent, right? That he isn't wanting to hang out with you because of love, it's because of guilt. This is still all about him. Yes, I'm aware, but I don't care. I'm not doing this for him to feel better about himself. I'm doing it so I can have memories with my dad. I don't get to wait years and work through my emotions to figure out if I want a relationship with him or not. It's already decided that I don't get one. Yes, I know if he wasn't dying, he wouldn't be here. I get a single chance to feel like I have a dad. I don't know if things will go back to how they were, or if he will go back to his other son and drop me again. But I feel like I owe it to myself to try. And if it doesn't work out how I'm hoping, then F it, at least I gave it an honest effort. I'm not going into this with an open heart and a smile on my face, but I'm willing to be there and talk. It's completely all right that you've changed your mind after learning about your dad's illness. Your decision is a personal one, and it sounds like you're making the choice that feels right for you given the circumstances. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for prioritizing your relationship with your dad during this difficult time.